I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Tichborne in Hampshire. It's about 2 miles southwest of New Alresford and 6 miles east of Winchester, or 7 miles by car, and it's just inside the South Downs National Park. And we're going to be doing a roughly 6-mile circular walk to the south of the village, taking an undulating and peaceful ramble through lovely open countryside around the Itchen Valley. And there are lots of interesting stories about the area as well. Curses, fraudulent missing heirs, strange customs. We'll be looking at those shortly. Now I'm filming right at the end of April. It is another glorious spring day. The sun is out. There's not too much cloud in the sky. It should be perfect conditions for going for a walk, so do come along with us. Well, a little bit about the history of the village before we start. It gets its name, Tichborne, from, well, born by the River Itchen. We'll be seeing that river later. Other theories are that it gets its name from a Saxon chief, Ticce, T-I-C-C-E, I think, and he was a direct descendant of the Tichborne family. More of that family later. The actual manor of Tichborne was granted to the Bishop of Winchester in 909 by Edward the Elder, and it then was held by Walter de Tichborne from the Bishop of Winchester in 1135, and it subsequently passed from generation to generation. And the development of the village was directly related to that of Tichborne House, which we'll see later. It's effectively an estate village. So let's kick off the walk by having a quick look at the church, which is in front of me here. It's the Church of St Andrews, and it has Saxon origins. It's got an 11th century chancel. The nave, north and south aisles are late 12th century, and the tower was built in 1703. I think the porch was added in the 18th century, and I believe it has 6 bells. Let's have a look inside. Okay folks, well it is very, very dark in here. I have found some light, so we'll see how we go. I might have to put some photographs up. So just turning to the left, there's the font down there. There's a bit of light to the end there of the altar. Some sunshine coming through. But the real gem for this church, well, in my opinion here, is this, well, you can see where the north aisle here has been railed off, and it's basically formed something known as the Tichborne Chapel, and there's a couple of monuments to members of the Tichborne family who are Roman Catholics, and it's actually a rare situation of it being dedicated as a Roman Catholic chapel within a pre-Reformation Anglican parish church, and I believe it's unique in Hampshire, and only one of 3 Catholic chapels surviving in a pre-Reformation church actually in England. So we can actually get through a bit of sunlight coming through. So this is actually the tomb of Sir Benjamin Tichborne, who died in 1621. He was the High Sheriff of Hampshire between 1579 and 1580. Next to him is his wife, Anne Phyllis. And if I just step back, without stepping over Logan, the carvings in front are his 7 children. And then just over to the left, there's a lovely little chapel. There's quite a sad memorial up on the wall here. It's little Richard Tichborne lying on his side. He drowned in 1619 in a pond near his father's house. He was only 1.5 years old, and he was the son of Sir Richard Tichborne. And then just looking up at the ceiling here, I'm presuming these must be just funeral hatchments relating to the Tichborne family, but what a terrific chapel. So hopefully it gives you a little idea of what it looks like. And then, oh, I've just noticed up above there looks like a helmet, which I'm presuming must have something to do with the family. I'm not sure. Well, what a fascinating church that was inside. Okay, well, we're going to head out straight away into the countryside. We'll see a little bit more of the Tichborne village itself towards the end of the walk. And just next to the church, behind me here, is the old school. It was built in 1843, but closed in 1943. Well, we're already starting to get some quite stunning views, heading westwards down the Allan King Way, which is a 45-mile long-distance path from Winchester to Portchester, devised by the Hampshire Area Ramblers Association in memory of Allan, who I believe was their publicity officer. But I say, it really is quite beautiful on a spring day like today, that's for sure. Well, another little pit stop to admire the view. It's on a gorgeous day like today. It really does look stunning. And the crops now really got that green lushness to them. I know what, 8-9 inches high. Won't be long before they really will be putting a spurt in. This really is your quintessential Hampshire countryside view, isn't it? Beautiful. Well, it certainly is a lovely day today. It's actually the 30th of April. Always a very sad day for me because it was 3 years ago today that my first Whippet, Woody, passed away. And I think about him a lot. He was a really good lad. Well, a little bit of info for folk that might be doing this walk after watching the video. This is as far west as we're going. We've been sort of heading in a southwesterly direction. The Allan King Way continues on to my right, but we're now heading eastwards across a field, but keeping to a footpath. Well, a spring walk wouldn't be complete without bluebells. And the display in this little bit of woodland, it's absolutely gorgeous. It goes on for really deep into the wood. Looks like someone's made a nice little camp in the middle there, but and I just love the way the sun, the way it creeps through the canopy above, just adds to the magic of it all. Oh, I think I've said it in previous walks. We've had such a good year for bluebells. Just about every walk that I've done over the last few weeks or so really has been a joy to behold. I just noticed here, well, when I was doing my research on an 1897 map and indeed on a 1958 map, there was a pond called Slab Pond here, but now looks as though either it's dried up or filled in. I wonder what its history was. Also, there's a house called Heathclose House on the just a few yards on, and that's gone as well. A couple of quite enchanting thatched cottages here. I think some of these might be 17th century. We're at a place called Hill Houses. Isn't that lovely? And there's another one here as well. Got so much character to them. Okay, another quick update. Those two delightful cottages just behind me and Hill House. The footpath sign to my left. We're going to start heading north now. Well, folks, another pit stop for the view. Just looking north. Absolute silence. So peaceful. Sometimes you just have to let the pictures tell the story. Well, I've just come through Sevington Farm and just about to cross an old friend of ours, the River Itchen. Looking quite exquisite in the sunshine. Very much your typical Hampshire chalk stream. A lovely river, one of my favourites. I think it's 26 miles long. Its source is at New Cheriton. We've actually been to the source. Of course, it flows all the way down to Southampton. Well, we're now coming very close to Tichborne House, and just on the right there is the Tichborne Park Cricket Club. Apparently they played cricket here since the 19th century. And I was reading that during the 1960s there was a charity match with Kenneth Moore, David Niven, Gregory Peck and Burt Lancaster. Oh, I'd love to have been here for that. Well, behind me, or should I say behind the rhododendrons, is Tichborne House, so we're not going to be able to see it. Be able to see the gates though. Now the manor's been held by the Tichborne family since at least 1135 to the present day, and there was a house on the site in 1293 with its own chapel. An old house was demolished at the end of the 18th century and replaced in 1803 in a classical style, but I say it's private, there's no public access. The baronetcy became extinct upon the death of the 14th baronet in 1968 due to no surviving heirs on the male line that went back to the first baronet in the 1620s, but I believe descendants still live here. But seeing as we're here, there's quite a few interesting stories to tell about the place. So, well, there's a little star here, so I'll sit down and start the tales. Well, the first story I'm going to tell you about is the Tichborne Dole, D-O-L-E, which is a traditional festival of charity on the Feast of Annunciation, the 25th of March. The festival really centres on the handing out of donations of flour to locals blessed by the local parish priest in front of Tichborne House. Now the tradition dates back to the 12th century when Lady Tichborne on her deathbed instructed a donation of farm produce to be made to the poor each year. Well, her husband Sir Roger wasn't that keen on the idea, but he agreed to it on one condition: that the donation or dole would only consist of produce or corn from land that she was able to encircle under her own power whilst carrying a burning torch in her hand. Rather harsh. Maybe they weren't getting on, I don't know. Anyway, although she was in poor health, she managed to crawl round 23 acres of land in a field not far from here before the actual torch went out, and that area became known as the Crawls, and it's still known as that today. We'll be passing by it. And her ladyship insisted that the tradition should continue every year. And if it ever stopped, she predicted that there would be a curse that basically meant the Tichborne name would die out and the house would fall into ruin. Well, they did stop it in 1794, and the number of heirs started to diminish, so it was reintroduced in 1835 and has happened ever since. The present Dole stipulates that adults in the parish of Tichborne and Cheriton can claim 1 gallon of flour. Apparently children get half a gallon. Okay, now if you're still with us, second story. I think Logan's still awake. And that's regarding the Tichborne Claimant, which was a fascinating story that captivated Victorian England in the 1860s and 1870s. Roger Tichborne, heir to the Tichborne family fortunes and title, was presumed to have died in a shipwreck in 1854 at the age of 25. Now his mother clung to a belief that he may have survived, and after hearing rumours that he may have made his way to Australia, advertised in Australian newspapers, offering a reward for any information about him. Well, in 1866, a butcher from Wagga Wagga in Australia by the name of Thomas Castro came forward, claiming to be Roger Tichborne. His real name was Arthur Orton. He was instantly accepted by Lady Tichborne as her son, but other family members were somewhat dismissive. Sir Roger was a little man, short, slight, with sloping shoulders, a narrow head and a beaked nose, while the claimant was a colossal figure of 24 stones. Well, when Lady Tichborne died in 1868, Castro lost his principal supporter, and the matter went to civil trial in 1871. That lasted 10 months. And eventually it was found that he was not Sir Roger, and he was sent to prison to wait trial for perjury. The criminal trial started in 1873, and that lasted another 10 months. The jury agreed he was not Sir Roger, and he was sentenced to 14 years penal servitude. He actually served 10 years before being released on licence. He died in 1898 in impoverished circumstances and had a pauper's burial. And indeed, in 1998, there was a film made called The Tichborne Claimant, starring Stephen Fry and Robert Hardy. Now, if I've got this right on the map, I think these fields here are the Crawls, where poor old Lady Tichborne had to crawl around on her hands and knees. We've just gone down a path. It doesn't appear on an Ordnance Survey map, but it's a permissive path, but very useful because it avoids us having to do a bit of an unnecessary loop up to the A31 and back. Oh, just crossing our friend, the River Itchen again. There's quite a few fish in there as well. I'll see if I can take a photo. Might not come out too well, but beautiful, and the glinting sunshine on the water there. Really is quite enchanting. Well, we're now on the homeward leg. We're actually on the Itchen Way, which is a long distance path that basically follows the course of the River Itchen. So, heading uphill towards that ridge where we'll rejoin the Allan King Way, and that'll take us back into Tichborne. Definitely a day to make sure we have plenty of water with us. What a superb location to put a bench, because looking out, how about this for a view? Isn't that stunning? So there's the The River Itchen meandering its way. I guess that must be the, this near Alresford over there, must be. We've now made our way back into Tichborne, so before we finish, let's have a little wander through the village for an exploration. And just here on the right, there's 3 cottages, Hope Cottage, Butts Cottage and Donkey Field. And they might look quite old, but in fact they were built in the 1990s, so they've blended in really well, haven't they? And just continue to make our way along. I say it has been a quite glorious day weather-wise. Making our way towards the pub. Again, more beautiful thatched cottages on there. And then now over here, this is the old post office. I mean, it looks as though it's been refurbished, but it really does look splendid. And I love it that they've still got the old public telephone sign outside as well. Brilliant. And this is the pub, the Tichborne Arms, which sadly is closed. The current building is actually less than 100 years old, but an inn has existed on the site since the 15th century. The pub today was rebuilt after the second of 2 major fires in 1939. But I read that the landlord here sadly died in March 2021 and it changed hands. It's due to reopen in 2022. I think the new licensees took over in October 2021, but quite a bit of renovation was required, so they couldn't be opened straight away. Gosh, isn't that exquisite? Yew tree cottage. Is that a wisteria outside? Not quite coming into bloom yet. Beautiful. What have we got here? Grange cottage. Another lovely thatched building. So well presented. Now, looking at an old map, I think this building here is the old smithy. Certainly there's a horseshoe just above the window there. Wow, 2 lovely cottages here. On the right, the White Cottage, which I believe is 17th century, and then over the road. Look at that thatch. You see just beneath the chimneys a face of an owl. Splendid. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. And do please consider subscribing to the channel. That way hopefully you'll be able to join us for another walk sometime in the future. We've had a super walk today. The weather once again has been glorious, and we're off back into town to find a pub for a nice pint somewhere. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Right, sweetie time? Good boy.